Yo, it's ODB from OLP. This is issue 141 of Mini Truckin Magazine, September 2003. My apologies the other day when I did August 03. Forgot to tell you guys at the end, it was the 15th cover truck with KMC wheels. So with that out of the way, let's jump in. Hopefully I can get the model's name correct on this one. So let's do it. This is Jan's truck from Sept, Canada, representing with his killer Toyota. This truck is super sick because one of the things that always stuck out in my mind, not only the awesome model, Tiffany Lang on the cover, you have a very unique kind of themed bag set up in the back that look like spiders. Okay, I always thought that was freaking awesome. And I remember talking to my buddy Matt Torgerson about that back in the day. Shout out to Matt, he's a watcher. Thanks, Matt. But I remember going, man, that's something a little bit different. I know some of you guys may not agree, but it is what it is, and I'm just keeping it real. This was the 10th Sept truck to be on the cover. And for those scoring at home, it is a back-to-back because Sept had to issue 140 as well. This counts as another international cover. So again, I always give credit where credit's due. Lance really helped grow this magazine into more of a worldwide publication, right? Because they featured trucks. They started to grow that during Lance's reign, in my opinion, based upon what we've seen. So this is the second Canadian truck to grace the cover. Can you guys guess the first one? Those that have been watching probably know. Comment below. I'll mention it at the end. Again, the model is Tiffany Lang, the beautiful Tiffany Lang. We're going to see double here, I think, in this one. Wes Allison's 43rd credited Mini Truckin Magazine cover. This is one of 6 total cover trucks with Nietzsche wheels. And this is the 5th of those 6. I believe they may have linked up the Spring California Truck Jamboree 2003. Maybe they had planned it. That was my assumption, either before or after, the week after, which the other Canadian also had planned and kind of did that. But with that being said, again, you can see, to me, a unique cover, the beautiful model. You see, this is a perfect truck to have a rear 3/4 shot, plenty of compressors, definitely not hydraulics. And you see the air tank. We see the model looking awesome. And you see, remember I talked about recently, that line, if you will. And then, of course, you have another awesome truck right here, but September 2003. So with that being said, again, if you can stick with me to the end, it helps our channel. Let them play through. These are all in playlists. And oh, by the way, all of the description will include everything that I talk about. I go back and add all of that. So this month, we have a custom mini truck from Canada gracing our cover, which is only the second Canuck Mini ever to do so. It's another knockout punch. Tiffany Lang, so I got the name right. Beautiful photo, and again, we'll see that one here in a little bit as well. Wes Allison, the OG. We could see table of contents, gives us a little bit of insight. This is probably one of my next favorite trucks in here, as well as the Blazer, which is confirmed. Last issue was in Mini Truckin Graffiti, and we're going to see that as the first feature in this issue. What goes around, ... So Lance talks, I should have mentioned, when he mentioned the last episode, the rumor mill, he talked about linking up with a homie or someone that he had maybe discounted or didn't see eye to eye with, and he had sat down over lunch and he cleared things up. And I think that's really important for all of us to do. I've certainly tried to better myself and bury the beefs, right? Speaking for myself, this one's what goes around comes around. He talks about picking up a motorcycle, which you can see. But I also want to mention this. I think it was 2 issues ago, so I think this will be maybe the 3rd issue I went through, where Mike Finnegan, we no longer see his editorial. So in the near future, the new cast member of the publication will be brought on board, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. But I kept wanting to bring it up, and I kept wondering, oh, that's right, did he just stop? But, after I thumbed through this one really quick before I started, and I was like, yeah, I got to bring that up because the new team member will be announced soon. GM pays off. General Motors recently paid approximately $495 million to settle lawsuits related to pickups that critics say were prone to explosion. I know oftentimes, especially nowadays, people Still, Chevy versus Ford is like the Hatfields versus McCoy. Although I was raised a Chevy guy. My dad through and through is a Chevy guy. Long story behind that, going back to his grandfather. People still argue about that. Trucks blowing up. People make fun of the EVs. I'm not for EVs or against them. I could care less. People make fun of the EVs blowing up, and I'm like, the freaking Chevy truck, look, however many millions of dollars, they all blow up at some point. I don't know. It is what it is. But this is pennies from heaven, about 2 million of them. And I know this truck as 2 Blaze You, which is on the tag. I got a chance to see it back in the day at ITB, also known as Indy Truck Bash. This was Troy Davis's 85 Blazer from Wabash, I believe is how you say it, Indiana. Super sick truck. Not sure if it's still around. I hope that it is. These square bodies are certainly timeless, and this thing is insane. You can see, again, I like the uniqueness of the whole back, the way they did the interior. Of course, it's got a Camaro dash, that color, a little bit of ghost flames in there. Super awesome. I've also released video of this. So again, if you're not following us in social media, maybe you're a holdout. You're like, I don't want to be on Facebook. I don't want to be on Instagram. You're missing out. That's where most of our action is happening. Although I'm ramping up more and more here. Check us out on Instagram and turn on post notifications. I think you tap the bell and you can have it where it notifies you if we go live, if we make a post. I say we, I'm the only one that posts the stuff. So you guys know if it's a post from OLP, it's a post from ODB, okay? ODB, I approve this message. Here, believe it or not, for those that did not know, Mazda P, also known as Master P, P. Miller, Percy Miller, right? Bazooka ad back in the days of baggy jerseys, you know, when throwbacks. I think Bun B was one of the rappers that really started wearing throwbacks back in the day. That started a whole craze that, I don't know, I know throwback and collecting jerseys is big. I have a few, but I don't know that it's as big as it was at that time. Everybody wearing the Mitchell & S jerseys and whatnot. But Mazda P was in Mini Truckin'. Here is Dan Tibbetts, Tebbetts. This was Tyler, Texas, Severed Truck. And this is hardcore. So super awesome. What I appreciated here, although unless I missed it, you guys can let me know. I don't think Lance had mentioned yet that Mike had moved on. We obviously saw Mike Finnegan no longer have an editorial. But regardless of that, the reason why I say that is you still have his name listed there, which I think is key, right? Because, I mean, they did the work. Plus, from a historical perspective, you know, we're 20 years later. You know, I want to know who shot these trucks if I can, right? You got to get it in the database. Looks like Matt Long's Envoy there. One of the only, not the only one, but the first one built, I believe. Here is the 3rd annual scrape session. So there's that S10 I talk about. Here's another photo of it. This thing had so much show coverage over the course of time. Really stood out. It changed hands, as I mentioned recently, a good bunch. Always dug those wheels. Or any style like it. I think Breckenridge, very similar for the Colorado Custom. This thing was always sick. Mitsubishi Mighty Max. You can see how low it is. I dig it. I guess those are the Z71 wheels, topless. You can see how much the thing is dug in the ground because the valence is tucking. But certainly, you know, if you guys have attended these shows or you were at this year or whatever, definitely chime in, man. I love to hear it. Love seeing the comments. I respond to the majority of them. Now, at first glance, you might think this was the Gendro built, but it wasn't, right, as far as I know. I don't believe, looking at the interior and seeing that it was in extreme lows, Brandt, of course, ended up with Dan's truck and, you know, purchasing it, and the color changed after an accident, which we talked to Brandt about in the past. Okay. Boom. Foreign Relations. Such a great title for this one. And no, she wasn't a twin. This is Tiffany Lang. A little bit of photography trickery on Jan John, aka J Cube's 9.4 Toyota Extra Cab, Calgary, Alberta, Canada, so Calgary, and then Severed, as I mentioned. So let's just look at this awesome truck for a minute. Super clean. Again, awesome model, and you are seeing double, I guess, technically. You see J Cube's Wild Ride. Something that I think is just awesome about this truck is, you know, it's a cab or extra cab. The uniqueness of the bridge work in the background with the spider looking deals, sliding rag top, great color, awesome wheel choice, hot model, Wes Allison photography. What more can you ask for? You know, Severed representing 10th Severitized truck to grace the cover, which is a good round number. And check out that front end, though. A lot of tricks up the sleeve on this one. Who knows? Is this truck still around? I'd love to know. By today's standards, look, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 compressors. Okay? And I'm guessing they are the other brand, is all I'll say. How many of those would you need today? 2 of the Viators, maybe? It's crazy how things have changed. But certainly, I guess, you know, the way I see this, at least, and keep me honest, guys, I look at it as like this bag setup, this air suspension setup, kind of made it, you know, look and feel like almost like a hydraulic setup. You know, you had the hard lines. Some guys were doing it. Not a lot of guys were doing hard lines at the time. Certainly wasn't the first, but a little bit more rare at the time. But with the compressors, the way they're mounted and whatnot, and the polished tank, it certainly gave the kind of that look and feel, to me at least, of hydraulics, right? So it's kind of cool. A little bit different setup than we had typically seen. You can see there the striping laid out. Super clean interior, nothing too crazy so far. And then the tarantula, if I could say that word, spider, kind of reminiscent almost, I would think of like Soundstream, is what I think of. Super clean engine bay. I always loved, again, as I mentioned recently, the chrome air cleaners in these engine bay setups, including the Mazdas. And boom, super clean interior. Got your switches right here in the console. Pretty awesome. So if you like what we're doing here, leave it on Moji. Even if it's just a thumbs up, it definitely helps us. Here's Shared Victory, Tom Moscato, 96 dime. Was always a big fan of this truck, as well as just these mid like 94 to like 97-ish S10s. I think they look great. They're a little bit, you know, more basic than kind of the later models, you know, before the dash changes and whatnot. This one, I think I always remember seeing this feature and the show coverage of it, and it just looks great. Extended cab, nice size wheel, 98-ish valance, right? I had the same one on my truck for a while. That was a thing that a lot of us did, and I saw other trucks do it, and I loved it. Got a little bit of sculpture going on in the cab. An awesome box. I mean, this, to me, if you think back to some of the 90s trucks that we saw, the 90s covers, like 96, 97, they had boxes similar to this, and I love that old school. To me, it's old school, like 90s type feel. Super clean rear end there. You get the bed liner. I wasn't always a fan of the gas tank in the bed. I understand why some guys did it. His bed looks like it's like at the stock height down low, so I could see why, you know, he had to do that. But obviously the gas tank there, to me, being that it's like a Rhino line, it actually looks pretty dang good. But certainly a super clean and classy dime. Here is Spring California Truck Jamboree. So this would have been 03. We are on, again, September 2003 issue. So the spring issue would have been about, you know, 4 or 5 months prior. We could see Jan's truck right here. So again, knowing Lance, knowing the team, they probably, you know, had this planned, come on down. And guys would do that back in the day. I haven't talked about that enough, but like if a guy was going to get shot for a magazine and they had it planned, I mean, you'd have a guy drive from the West Coast, trailer their stuff out there. Here we can see the famous Toyota, Josh Freeman. Kind of a mini feature here. You've got the photo there with the truck mag issue sitting in the driver's seat. You got the front 3/4 on the passenger side, and then boom, the rear, super sick, and then boom, Jan's. And again, let's just look at that bag setup. You know, I know, you know, some of you guys would go, you know, maybe, you know, it's a little high. I wouldn't really want it. Dude, I like it. Something different. And, you know, it is what it is. Just keeping it real. Here you can see the shaved corner. Local finesse, MIC. You can kind of tell from the paint job, but it does have an MIC banner on it. There's the severed. And I could have been wrong in that last photo where I had mentioned the trucks were lined up. And this one was on the end and the wagon was there. It probably was this, now that I think about it, the Spring California Truck Jamboree. They used that little insert photo in the last issue. You can see Devious Customs across the windshield here on this one. And then another dime. Can't forget the ladies. If you like what we're doing here, check us out, OLP, via almost any podcast app. Here's Slam Session. You got Pebble Pushers, the group photo with the tattoos. Outcast Customs, check this out. Reminiscent of Chris Anders' Mazda, as well as Paul Davis Ombre. Love this mod, but they tricked it out another step. They did the caddy tails with the pop-up deal. So slick. So dope. And we'll round out the coverage. Now, granted, I want to point this out. We're still not all color. We're getting closer. But you would look and, you know, you go through this issue and you go, I think it's all color. And then you find a page, you're like, oh, it's not yet. Here's Sam Sales 87 GMC S15. A little bit more rare. Didn't see as many S15s, aka S10s, featured as a GMC S15. And you got the shaved body line on this one. Super clean. Magnetic minis. I remember seeing that. Here is push button power, easy as NOS. You got the merchandise on the right. More ads, color, which is good. You got paper cuts. You got Tribalicious. This was Dennis Phillips, 94 Mazda B2300. Again, I tend to forget. Yes, there was a 2300. Some of you guys chimed in. This was an RA truck, 94 Mazda. Super clean. Something a little bit different there. You see the head unit and then maybe an EQ, maybe a CD changer, maybe a CD, then cassette. But pretty sick. It's crazy to think like those Alpine units now, you know, kind of old school by today's standards. A lot of guys don't even have a head unit unless you're doing an old school build. But that was certainly one of the epicenters of our trucks, our rides back in the day was, you know, what head unit were you rocking? Cassette, then we went to CD, then we were using micro USB deals. Here is Dennis and Emily Herring. 96 GMC Sonoma, so we didn't see as many Sonomas featured in the publication, but that front end is definitely classic. You can see there the little four banger, same engine I had on my dime. Lowered atmosphere. And what's ironic there, lowered atmosphere, I don't know if I may have shared this. The first club I was ever in was Collapsed Altitude, and it had a very similar logo. People would joke and say it looked like the LA Gear logo because it was like a CA for Collapsed Altitude, but it almost looked like an LA. Here's Sal Napoli's Mazda Cab Plus Topless. I've got a chance. Did I see this one? I think I saw this one in person at the Mini Truck Hall of Fame when Sal was patched in. And it's an awesome truck. Again, you don't see that many Cab Plus trucks topless. And there's the photo from Tampa that I've hinted at many times. Probably is the image that ran in the magazine more than any other image. Here is the Sonoma, I think again, the same one we just saw maybe. There's the Toyota, and then you have the Ranger, or is it a Mazda, from the back there. What do you guys think? Issue 141, Jan really built an awesome truck. Tiffany Lang looking awesome on the cover. Let's see if there was anything else that I wanted to mention. Again, one of 6. This was the 5th cover truck with Nietzsche wheels. And again, the Canada cover. So this is the number 2. Number 1 was Mosbury Delight. We had Devin on the podcast in the past, and we know Devin took his truck to California for Rezo 2003, which was December 02 into January 03. And he stayed, as he mentioned on the podcast, that week after, and they linked up and they shot the truck. Wes Allison did. And then, of course, a few months go by and they link up with another Canadian, and that's Jan. Again, the 10th Severtage truck to grace the cover. Next, we're going to be looking at a Toyota pickup with graphics on the cover. And I think that's it. Subscribe, y'all. Appreciate all the support. This model, though. We out ya.